there are less than, I think it's less than 1% of all Americans that have any silver whatsoever. And it might be a little higher, between 1 and 2% of any Americans that have any silver, let alone gold whatsoever. And if you have 32 ounces, 2 kilos, or 1 kilo of gold, you have more wealth than 99% of all the people in the world. And I can't remember where I heard this information, but 32 ounces of gold is more gold than 99% of the people on Earth possess. So
wow.
You need to measure your wealth through gold and silver ounces, and not comparing them to how much they are worth at the moment in any particular currency, like the US dollar. We've seen recently a pretty big, I wouldn't call it a crash, but an attack on gold and silver. The price has gone down pretty dramatically over the past week or so, maybe a little longer. But if you look in other currencies, it hasn't, the same thing hasn't happened. Gold and silver have held their value in those currencies. But if you also look at how the stock market has gone down over the past week or two, gold has gone down minimally compared to those. So gold is holding its value. I'll call them PMs, precious metals, are holding their value compared to other assets. And that's exactly what they're meant to do.
Yeah. Well, I was just remembering that there's a very famous video going around right now on YouTube. It's with Ray Dalio, and he does what the video is called the Changing World Order. And if you follow that video, he talks quite a bit about some of the economic things that are going on. But the reality is that kingdoms and nations have risen and fallen on their dependence upon relieving themselves or getting away from their dependence on gold and silver. And some of these, as these nations rise and fall to become the world powers, and with the dollar became the world power backed by gold. And then as we now start to see just in the last 50 years, the life cycle of fiat currencies is usually between, I don't know what the average is. I actually,
I think the average is about 40 years.
Yeah, we're over
so well beyond that.
Yeah, we're well beyond that. So, here it is. A study found the average life expectancy for fiat currency is 27 years. The shortest lifespan being 1 month, and the longest being 320 years. So the average is 27 though. And so it's amazing to think that we got off the gold standard in 1973. That's 50 years now. We're double the average. And then in the same year that we're 50 years into this fiat currency issue, where we're just based on gold, Ray Dalio puts out this video about how we're our world order, the dollar is declining. We're seeing China and Russia rise up. And what are China and Russia doing? They're buying gold by the truckload. And so, some of you out there listening might say, well, that's what nations are doing. What does that matter for me? Well, nations rise and fall based on their gold and silver reserves. And if we do have a collapse, if we do have a great reset, the likelihood of somebody with some gold and silver being way more successful than somebody who has all their money, let's say in digital gold, with the crypto, Bitcoins,
ETFs and such.
Yeah, the guys with gold and silver are going to rise to the top of the list of people that are going to survive through that kind of a situation in a post crash or a post economic crash, because gold and silver is God's money. It's the only thing that's lasted, thousands of years. I was in an argument the other day with a guy. He's like, well, Bitcoin's been around long enough. I trust it now. I'm like, I promise you, gold and silver been around a lot longer than Bitcoin.
Has a much better track record, is much more stable, right? Everything in our day seems to be all about speculation. Everyone's talking about speculation. Oh, well, the economy's going to do this. I'm going to go invest over here in Bitcoin or, ETF.
And yeah, let's be completely honest about this too, is, I am definitely speculating that gold and silver will go much higher as well, but it's not a gamble, right? I would like it to go higher, but gold and silver have proven to hold their value, their purchasing power over centuries, over thousands of years even. But like you said, Paris, I do believe that here in the near future, gold and silver will stand out as the premium money, right? We do know that we're going to a digital dollar. China already has one. Other countries have said that they are setting themselves up as as their own digital banks, on digital currencies, and I think those will replace the current monetary system. However, I think if you have gold and silver to barter with, or to even possibly turn into the banks to pay off debts, I think that will be the premium. There'll be the two different types of currency: money, real money, and then digital currencies.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say too, like when we talk about the value of gold and silver, like we're in a post-apocalyptic scenario. A lot of people jump into that topic and they're like, well, you can't use gold and silver when people are starving. And it's like, you can use gold and silver in exchange with banks, depending on the laws and where you are. Like there's those types of things, but there's also like, there's optimal times when you want to do that. But then there's also when society starts to recollect and start rebuilding, gold and silver will have value again. When you're starving, wheat and corn and food products are going to be the most valuable things. Bullets, band-aids, and beans. Those are the 3 B's that everyone talks about.
And you can call those money as well. The first form of money were like seashells. They were used and traded for other goods, and so are all kinds of barter items. You could call those money as well.
Yeah,
that's why I think like people get confused with what is money. Money is anything of real value, of real worth, that can be used as a modem of exchange.
Yeah, intrinsic value, which means in and of itself it has value, not just
correct.
Because the current dollar bills, like, they're not even worth the paper they're printed on. There's no intrinsic value. That's the difference there.
How much does it cost to stamp a penny?
It's like a penny and a half.
Yeah, I think it's even higher than that. I heard last year it was almost 3 cents per penny.
Could be. And nickels, with the price of nickel that have went up. I'm not sure where it's at now, but it was upwards of 9 cents just in the metal value alone of nickel. And I've heard a lot of people, they knew the value of nickel was going to go up, so they went and bought a bunch of nickels. Okay, I can see how that kind of makes sense, but nickel historically is not a monetary metal. Might as well put that cash into silver and gold, right?
Yeah.
Or like into lead, like you say, things that we know are going to have extended shelf life. Gold and silver never goes bad, right? I mean, nickel never does either, but what are you going to use it for? It's used in industry. It's used for making coins. So there is a need for it, but what am I going to do with nickel? Where am I going to take it to cash it in? Like you say, when it hits the fan, you can't eat gold and silver. And that's another thing I wanted to make sure that we brought up is, if you don't have food, if you don't have shelter, if you don't have water, don't be buying, gold and silver. Don't be trading in your dollars for gold and silver. Not yet anyway. Get those things first, take care of those needs first. And then with your excess, start putting your dollars away, trading your dollars, your debt notes for real money. That's a pretty amazing thing that you can take this note that's worth the opposite. It's a debt obligation, and go and trade it for some real money right now. That's a hard concept to understand, especially if you don't understand the history of money and truly what the dollar is. I know, Paris, you had mentioned 1973 when we went off the gold standard. We actually went off the gold standard in 1933 when gold was taken out of the citizens' hands. It was still a gold standard between countries until 1971. The U.S. Was still giving other countries dollars for the gold that they had turned in to the U.S. and the other countries were seeing how many dollars the U.S. printing, and they said, this is it's devaluing the dollar. We want our gold back. And for several years before 1971, the U.S. was losing a lot of gold. I think the U.S. had upwards of 30,000 tons, something like that, of other people's gold, other countries' gold, and now technically they say they're down to about 8,300 tons. I think it's what it is, 8,344, until Nixon closed the gold window in 1971 and said, we're no longer going to redeem dollars for gold like we said we would. That was a default. The U.S. defaulted on their promise right then and there. That was I can't say the word, an actual default. But they won't admit it. They won't say the U.S. defaulted. So and then the government took silver out of our money in 1964, and they were no longer putting silver in the dimes and quarters and half dollars. So we essentially went off a silver standard then as well.
Yeah.
What's interesting is the whole economic shift, right? Everything that's been going on for the last 100 years, really, in the United States, to eliminate gold and silver, was, I mean, it's been intentional, but according to the creature Jekyll Island, like a lot of it was to get the gold and silver back to none other than the United Kingdom.
Interesting.
To force a dependence of the United States back on the United Kingdom.
That makes sense.
And they've been doing that not just to the United States, but to the whole world. Trying to regain power through banking monopolization by controlling the actual assets and then putting us back onto the ship of fake money, fiat money.
Yeah, I think it was Lord Rothschild who said, "I don't care who makes the country's laws, just let me control its currency." I think he said money. But just like Mike Maloney, and I'm parroting his name a lot, you have to be very careful in using your words correctly, using money and currency correctly. Currency are those dollar bills that we carry. That's not money, right? And so if we use our words correctly, we might be able to educate some people as to what they really have in their bank accounts, what they really have in their wallets. Ones and zeros on a screen of your trading account with your brokerage, that's not wealth. That's not money. All that is digital. Until you turn that into something physical, like gold or silver, like beans and band-aids and bullets, it's not wealth. You turn it into land. That's how wealth was transferred from generation to generation for thousands of years, through gold and silver, through land, through real estate, through real tangible things, through real money, not by these currencies that fail every 27 years. And I think I was probably referring 40 years to our economic system. I think our economic systems only last 30 to 40 years. And we're definitely pushing on the upper edge of that, where there was the Bretton Woods. Some economists have even gone on to speculate that, we've already started Bretton Woods 4. We're now in a new economic system. I don't know exactly how they explain that, but things are changing, and they're changing on purpose.
Well, I know one of the reasons why China has been, at least what they're speculating, why China is buying up so much gold right now, is because there's something called the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. And these are the guys that basically set monetary policy for the world. And there's so to speak, a high table there that's, the countries with the most gold, the most clout, the biggest voice can kind of set the rules of the IMF. And so you've got one of the reasons why China is buying up, because they want to have a bigger voice. They want to be able to have a bigger vote. They want to be able to have more pull and more say. And Russia's doing some of the same things. So forever we've seen, right now, America is the top. We're the leading currency in the world. We're the petrodollar. We're the world power in terms
reserve currency. Yeah.
We're the world reserve currency. And so our voice is the biggest because of that. Well, if China surpasses us in gold reserves, or if Russia surpasses us in gold reserves, they're going to have a bigger voice at the table. And that's kind of the thing that most people don't realize, is that there is, like, we all have these countries that are doing things within our countries, but we don't realize that there's a big global effort to bring a lot of this stuff into one new world order. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's exactly what it is. And what I think is going to happen is, obviously, we know lots of countries are buying up gold, and silver to a lesser extent. That's the currency for the people, is silver. And that's one reason why I want to have some gold, right? Because that is the currency of kings and countries and governments. But it's a big question right now. It's up in the air of how much each of these countries holds, right? Supposedly the US has 8,344 tons, something like that. Hasn't been audited since 1950. China reports they have like 1,900 tons, excuse me. But people who track their system say they've got over 20,000 tons, and even potentially a lot more than that, because they don't report how much they mine within their own country, and they don't let any of it go out of the country except for maybe some limited